Hi everyone, this is Caitlin, and today I kind of wanted to go over assignment 6. I'm going to go more in depth of the second half, but then just kind of an overview of what the first half of the assignment was. I feel like the whole graphing part in itself tends to be a little bit more confusing than some of the other formulas that we do, so just kind of wanted to go over that piece. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I'm in my other set, but I'm going to go ahead and switch over into this side. So as you can see, I have decided to highlight my data in blue colors. For me, it's easier to see blue than red, so I just went ahead and used a light blue and a light red, or a light blue and a dark blue, so that I could see what we were working with. And part of this assignment, we had to write null and alternative hypotheses. For me, this is always confusing, so I actually have to physically write out what the explanation of both before I write the hypothesis. So the null hypothesis is ultimately saying that there's no relationship between the things that we are testing, and the alternative hypothesis is that there is a relationship between the things we're testing, right? So kind of saying that there is no relationship between these two sets, or there is a relationship between these two sets. So the first part was ultimately we did correlation, so we went to our data analysis, and then we did a correlation test. And that should have popped up on this slide here. So as we can see right here is our correlation, which is 0.84. As we've discussed in class, our correlation is based on a scale of 0 to 1. And so the closer to 1 you are, the higher ultimately the relationship is, and closer to 0, the lower it is. So having 0.84, we have a strong relationship between these two data sets. And because we do not have a negative sign here, we don't have a negative correlation. We have a positive correlation. So this would be a positive high correlation. So I went ahead and I copied all the data from this set and this set and put it into another sheet. As you can see, I already have my graph done, but I went ahead and took all the data from both. As you can see, there's 577 data set or sets of data here. So ultimately what you would do is you'd copy and only go down to 101. I always scroll way too far past it. Go to 101 and then come back up and go to insert. And then obviously we did a scatter plot here. So as you can see, as I scroll my little clicker over it, it pops up a new graph. I'm just going to continue to work with the one that I already have, just because it's already a good example. So ultimately it would pop up as probably that white, right? So you have the white with just the blue sets there. Then once we have the graph, we wanted to put in lines, and then we needed to add the X and Y axes. So what I had to do is I had to click on it, and then you have to go up to design right up here on this little tab, and then add chart elements. So the first thing I did was I added a trend line, and we needed it to be a linear trend line. As you can see, there's none, there's linear forecast, and moving average, which is all over the place. So we did a linear trend line here, and then after that we went ahead and did how voters feel about Trump versus how they feel if if they consider him a good leader, right? So my y-axis was if he was a good leader. So if I went into here, I would put axis titles, and I would do primary vertical is my y-axis. And then my x-axis was how voters felt about Donald Trump, and that would be my primary horizontal axis, which is you can see it. It disappears when I scroll over it. And then after that, you know, it was kind of the fun part. You got to play around with your colors and different things. And so I went ahead and went with this dark gray color just because it's easier to see when you put it on white, right? So if I come in over here and I work with my fill and then I have a border there, and then I worked a lot up here. So like I would scroll through these to see what I had first. I didn't like a lot of them only because, as you can see on mine, the dots are wider when we have more people in that area and smaller when there's not as many people in that area. And so like this one was kind of hard. It still worked, but it was like the depth of it was different and kind of weird. This one didn't show anything. I did consider this one, putting it in the dark color, because it had like the pinwheel spirals, and so it made it darker in different colors and different shades. So, and then you can change colors over here. I just went ahead and went with my blue. Obviously, I can see blue better, so I thought the blue was definitely the way to go here. And when I tried to do red, it did not copy over to Word. So we went ahead and kept the blue, and I felt like that was a good color choice because you could actually see the dots and the shading that was done on this graph. So ultimately, in the end, what we did was we would copy it. Oops. Copy right there, and then paste it into the Word document. And even from Word, you know, you can access these different colors and designs, and so you can change it right from your document. So even if it looks bad here or looks good here and then looks bad on the Word document, you can still go in and edit and change it, and it won't mess with the formatting, which is really nice because I've had way too many graphs that if I transfer it over into another section, it does not look as great. So ultimately, you know, it's nice to be able to know this programming and be able to go in and use it so that when you're creating presentations for different things, you know, your graphs and data will always look nice and pleasant. So that's kind of what I went over, or kind of how I did my assignment. You know, there's a lot of different pieces to this. We had two questions, and even though there's only 2 questions here, you know, these assignments are a little bit bigger, and you still need to have a broad knowledge of how to use these different pieces in Excel and how to transfer them over into Word. Copy and paste, you know, we've learned that our whole lives, but normally copy and paste doesn't work quite as well formatting wise as it does with some of these graphs when you're just transferring it from Excel into Word. So I think that's important to note. I also did not have a title on mine. You probably could have, but I just left it like this. It was clean, easy, simple to read. And that's kind of the end of my assignment here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this screen share. Overall, I think this was a great assignment to use to help with those graphs as we're going into our last part of the semester and going into our presentation of our data sets, or the information that we found about our technology or our communication journalism parts that we've been going over and that we have in the PowerPoints. You know, this was another iteration of that, being able to create these graphs in Excel and then transfer them over into another document. So that really gave you another chance to look at it and move forward. I hope you all had an amazing break, and this video was helpful. So have a great rest of your semester moving forward. This is our last video assignment. So it was great talking to you all, and I will see you all later. Bye.